Before today's attack in Istanbul, Israeli authorities had already been issuing travel warnings to Israelis visiting countries like Turkey and India. Joining us to discuss the security situation as well as Israeli-U.S. relations is Dr. Martin Sherman, director of the Israeli Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Happy New Year. Let's begin with some of the harder news that we've been witnessing today. Dr. Sherman, what is your advice to Israelis who are planning to travel abroad right now amid all of these travel warnings that we're seeing from the Israeli government?
Well, specifically with relation to Turkey, I think my advice is steer clear. But I think I would have given that advice several years ago, given the deterioration of the relationship with Turkey since the rise of the Erdogan government, who has clearly been a very anti-Israeli has been very anti-Israeli in all his behavior and attitude. So I think it would be a good idea for Israelis to steer clear of Turkey. And I think Turkey now is basically reaping the storm that it sowed. If you remember, Erdogan started off his incumbency with a statement of no enemies. I think he's reached a stage where he's got no friends. And I think also by purging the army and the security services from so many experienced professional officers, he's left himself in a difficult position. And as you've seen now, Turkey has been plagued time and time again by terrorist attacks over the last few months, which seems to be an embarrassing display of incompetence. So I would think Turkey is probably a good place to avoid if you can't, if you've got an option.
Which is too bad because it used to be one of the top travel destinations for many Israelis here. Now, turning to U.S.-Israeli relations, a whole nother animal. President-elect Donald Trump keeps speaking out about his support for Israel, as we all know and as we heard earlier in our newscast. And he's continued to criticize the Obama administration. What should Israel be doing in this final week until President Trump finally takes office?
Well, I think Israel should hold fast. I think we were given a very lucky respite by not having Hillary Clinton elected. You know, the Trump administration and its attitude towards the Middle East is all shrouded in a lot of uncertainty. But if Hillary had been elected, there would have been no uncertainty, which is why it was a good idea that she wasn't elected. So I think up until Trump is elected, Israel should hold fast. And after that, I think we should embark on an assertive change of policy towards the Middle East, particularly the Palestinian issue, and expose it for the hoax that it really is. You know, people have, last week, the settlements were castigated for being the major obstacle to peace. And this is, of course, absurd, because Arab enmity towards Israel predates the settlements and postdates the settlements, at least in Gaza, where every vestige of Jewish presence was razed to the ground and didn't bring us any peace. So I think Israel needs to adopt a far more assertive view, and given the seemingly supportive administration of Trump, I think it would be a good opportunity to begin to navigate a drastically different course than the course we've taken up to now.
Now, the Trump staff is apparently urging Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to attend the presidential inauguration on January 20th. Do you believe that is a wise move diplomatically?
Well, I really haven't heard much discussion of the pros and cons. My instinct is, yes, go for it. I think that this would cement the relationship and send a strong message to many of Israeli detractors that there's a new sheriff in town.
Okay. Now, Trump has often said that many changes will come on day one of his presidency. What can we expect, in your opinion, come January 21st? Well,
I think we should be careful about too rosy expectations, because with all the goodwill that Trump and his entourage may have towards Israel, they have a very strong bureaucracy which has a fixed agenda, which has not always been pro-Israel. So I think we should tone down our expectations, but be cautiously optimistic.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming in, Dr. Sherman, and hopefully we'll have you back in.
Thank you very much for having me.